Hi everyone and welcome to another sewing video. In this video I'm making a summer dress out of this really pretty floral fabric. I'm using one of my own patterns for this and it's one that I don't have the name for yet, so future me will put it in here. And if you are interested, you can get this pattern in the description down below. And this pattern is kind of a mix and match pattern. There are 3 variations to the bodice neckline. There is a straight across neckline, a sweetheart neckline, and one that's kind of in between the two, so it's a bit of a toned down sweetheart neckline. Then for the skirt I also made 3 variations. You can go for either the full circle skirt, the 3/4 circle skirt and the half circle skirt, all depending on how much volume you want in your dresses. Then for the straps there are 2 or technically 3 variations. There's the basic strap option and there is a braided option as well for a little bit more visual interest. And of course you could also leave out the straps entirely and make this a strapless dress. Final feature with variations is the waistband / belt. Again, there are 2 or technically 3 variations. There is the very basic tie in the back or front, I guess, waistband / belt, and then there's also a braided one to match the braided straps, and you can leave it out completely. For the dress I'm making today, I'm going with the sweetheart neckline, the 3/4 circle skirt. I'm making the braided straps, and if I have enough fabric I want to make both waistband / belt options. Anyway, we'll see what I'm going to do. So let's stop rambling and let's start sewing. I've cut out all the pieces, so now it's time to start putting this thing together, and it's actually really simple. First we are going to sew the bodice and then the skirt, attach the 2, put it in a zipper, and then add the straps and make the waistband. But first, like I said, we are making the bodice. So I have all the bodice pieces right here and I'm just going to pin these all together. And I'm making sure to match up the notches. Like that. So now let's do this for every single pattern piece for the bodice. Here we have the bodice all pinned together, so now I can take this over to the sewing machine and sew this up. Everything is sewn together, and because I'm lining this bodice, I don't really need to finish the seams on the inside. So all I'm doing to finish the bodice right now for the outer layer is just pressing open the seams, just to make it look really nice and crisp on the outside. I do really think this is a step that's really important. This will make your clothing look more professional instead of just handmade. I don't like doing this though, so yeah. Now for the curved seams, I'm going to clip the seam so that it will curve nicely, and then I'm pressing it open on my tailor's hem. Beautiful. And that is the outside of the bodice done. So now I just need to do the exact same thing for the lining. So let's see. And here it is. Here's the lining all done. Before I'm going to put these together, I'm going to do the skirt. because when I'm putting these together, I at the same time want to attach the straps, but because I need to know how long the straps need to be, I need to make sure that the dress is finished enough that I can try it on. So let's put this to the side for now, and then I can start working on the skirt, which is even more simple really than the bodice. So I have my pieces here. And all I'm gonna do is sew up the side seams. I want to use French seams. So I'm putting together my pattern pieces wrong side together, like this. And do the same for the other side seam. And then the next step is just sewing this. The next step is to first press the seam so that it is nice and flat. The next step is to just trim this seam allowance really close to the stitch line. Then next step is to fold this over so that now the right sides are together, just like they would be with any regular seam. And now it's really important to get this as neat as possible. I'm again pressing this. So now I'm going to sew along this edge here, and then the French seam will be done. And this is what the seam looks like from the inside. So now the raw edge is nicely concealed in here. And then on the outside it just looks like any regular seam. This is just a really nice way to finish seams in a really neat way. So now that most of the skirt is done, I still need to do the center back seam, but I won't be doing that till I put in the zipper. Which means that it's now time to put the bodice and the skirt together and turn this into an actual dress. So I'm just gonna lay bodice piece right here, right side facing upwards, then grab the skirt like this, try and find the middle, just right here, yep, and then match that up to the middle of the bodice. Then I'm going to match up the side seams right here, same on the other side, then just pin everything in between. There we go. So now let's sew this up. Bodice is now attached to the skirt, which means it's zipper time. Now what I like to do when I'm putting in a zipper is I first pin one side of the zipper to the dress and hand baste that on, just to make sure that nothing moves when I'm eventually sewing it on the sewing machine. Then the next step is to close the zipper, then make a little mark where the waistline seam is. And then I make sure that when I'm pinning the zipper tape to the other side, that the mark on the zipper matches with the waistline seam. Then I hand baste that side of the zipper as well. And then finally I can sew it on the sewing machine using my blind zipper foot. So once I've put in the zipper, I also quickly sewed up the center back seam and just folded the seam allowance under and stitched it down. Now that this is starting to look like a dress, it's time to move on to the straps. I already have the straps right here, and what I did for these is I just folded the pieces over and stitched it down. Then I turned all of the pieces right side out using a safety pin. Then I put the 3 pieces together and sewed them together. Then it was time to braid, so I just pinned it to my ironing board so it wouldn't move, and then I just braided the 3 pieces together. And then once I was done braiding, I again sewed the ends together. So now that we have the straps, we can put them on a dress. And to do this, I'm first going to try on the dress so that I know where to sew the straps on and how long they exactly need to be. And hopefully they're long enough, but they have some stretch to them because they're braided. So let's do that right now. Okay, now that I know where the straps need to be attached, as you can see, I've pinned them on and I just flipped them upside down because now I want to sew the straps on and attach the lining at the same time. So to do this, I've got my lining here and the main dress, and I'm putting them together right sides together and making sure the straps are kind of caught in between the 2 layers, matching up the center, and then matching up first all the seam lines, so that's definitely all matched up. And then here, of course, we also have the strap. Now that it's all pinned, I'm going to quickly sew this up. The lining is now finished, and after I sewed the seam at the top, I sewed the seam allowance down to the lining. Then I folded the lining to the inside, folded the bottom edge and the edges on the side under, and hand sewed it down to the seam allowance of the waistline and the zipper tape. Then also quickly sewed in my 2024 tag. So now it's time for the final step for the dress itself, which is the hem. For the hem, I'm first folding the hem over once and pressing it down at the same time. Then I'm folding it over a second time, like this, again pressing it, and then just pinning it into place. Just like that. And now I'm finishing the hem on the sewing machine, which I decided to go into time-lapse mode for, because honestly, hemming a 3/4 circle skirt just takes forever. At least it's not a full circle skirt, because honestly, that one would feel like there would be no end to the hem. Now that we are done with this hem, the dress is basically finished, and it's time to move on to the belts. Okay, for the belts, I have enough fabric to make both, so I started already on the first one, or I finished the first one, just the braided one, and I did the exact same steps as I did with the straps. So I folded the fabric in half, sewed along the edge, then I braided the whole thing and sewed it onto this little clasp thing, hook, whatever you want to call it. So now that this one is done, I can move on to the second one, which is the more plain one, the basic one. So I already have the piece here and folded it in half and pressed it down. Now what I'm going to do is pin this down along the edge. Here we have the end, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a bit more rounded. So I'm just going to draw the shape I want to sew on here, and then I can go to the sewing machine. now I need to trim around this curve here. So I'm just getting rid of the excess fabric like this so that it will fold nicely. Then I'm quickly going to trim along the rest of the seam allowance as well to make it as small as possible. I've also kept a little opening in the seam right here, as you can see, so that I can then use this to turn the whole thing right side out. It's now turned right side out, so I'm just going to go and give it a quick press. Now the final step for the waistband is to sew up this little cap that I've kept in here. So I'm just going to go and do this by hand real quick. Okay, now with the second belt also done, we are completely finished with this project, which means it's now time for the final review. And here we have the finished dress. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I think it fits really nicely, and also really importantly, as you can see, it twirls really nicely. I'm really happy with how this dress turned out. I think it's a really nice wearable summer dress, and I'm probably going to get a lot of wear out of it this summer and springtime. And here we have some close-ups of the belt. So here we have the braided belt. And of course also the regular belt with a really nice bow at the front. You can also just wear the bow at the back, of course, it doesn't really matter, but I like to wear my bows in the front. And then we also have a little close-up of the braided straps right here. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye!